support is making this possible. Literally, it's making this possible. And we wouldn't be here without all of you. But let me close with this thing that I talk about that I think is so important to all of us, which is why are we really here, right? And what are we doing here? Why are we here on a Tuesday night instead of doing all the things that we could be doing, together? And I go back, some of you have heard me say this before, but I think it's worth repeating that I go back to the speech that Joe Biden mentioned in his State of the Union address, FDR's 1941 speech, his State of the Union address, where he rallied America to understand the nature of the conflict that we were now in as a country, which is that we were going to have to go fight a war in Europe against fascism. And he used that State of the Union address to really begin the process of rallying the American people around this impending war that was coming. And that speech that Biden referenced and made the centerpiece of his speech, actually, just a few months ago, and you can decide what you think that means, by the way, that he referenced that speech. And that speech is also known in history as the Four Freedoms speech, because FDR articulated in that speech a formula for the modern world that became, in some ways, perhaps the most important words ever uttered in American English, political words ever uttered in American English, which is that he wanted a world that was based on freedom and not dominion, not, where people were free and people didn't have dominion over another, right? And control, which is really what fascism and totalitarianism is all about. And so his four freedoms, which are freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom from want, which I love that phrase, freedom from fear, became this articulation in this set of words that changed the world, because those four freedoms became the basis of the Atlantic Charter that was signed by Churchill and FDR, that became the basis of the alliance that won World War II. Those four freedoms became the foundation of the United Nations Charter, which established a theory of the world where one nation could not have dominion over another, and that nations were free and sovereign for the first time in international law and in all of human history. And they then became the foundation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948, negotiated by Eleanor Roosevelt and others, which created an international law for the first time, and understanding that people had rights, human rights. They were not just the rights of nations, but the rights of people, and creating this idea that people were also sovereign and that dominion over one another was not the way that we wanted the world to go evolve after the 1940s. And that world that FDR imagined and that we all together built, right, has created a golden age in human history. There's never been a better time to be alive than during this period of the Four Freedoms and the Pax Americana. We've seen literacy rates triple during this period. Life expectancy has gone from 45 years to over 71 years. We've seen more people live in democracies during this period than any time in human history. And we've seen global, extreme poverty plummet despite a huge increase in population around the world. There's never been a better time to be alive in all of human history. We're living in a golden age in human history. And what's important for us as we go ready to go out and do what we need to go do to win this election is that golden age in human history was something that we did. The Democratic Party of the United States did that. We created a golden age in human history. And I believe that because of that, we are the most consequential political force for good in all of human history. And that world that FDR imagined and that we have built and maintained and modernized and fought for and people have died for over these 80 years, with the 80th anniversary of D-Day coming up now just in a few days, is that world is now under threat. It's under threat from Iran and China and Russia, Hamas and Hezbollah, that Donald Trump's seeming interest in joining them created now, I think, greater ambition. His appeasement of these hostile powers gave them reason to be more aggressive and to prosecute their claims as we saw with Trump with Putin in Ukraine. And that we're now in a place where, because of MAGA and their global allies, that world of freedom and not dominion is under threat as never before, perhaps since it's been created in the 1940s. And that's why we're here, because our party was called in the 1940s by FDR, starting in that State of the Union speech in 1941, And our party and our country answered that call, and we created a world of freedom and not dominion. And I think our party is being called again, and America is being called again. All of you are being called again. And the reason why I'm so optimistic that we're going to prevail is because all of you are answering that call. And all of this work that all of us are doing, these 2 to 3 million people that are going out there and working their ass off and saving democracy every day, you're not just our secret superpower, as I described it earlier, but you are the patriots on the front lines of this global battle between dominion and freedom. And we've been winning here, everybody. We're not losing. It may feel like there are days where we're not winning, but we are winning, and we're going to win this election. And we're going to win this election because that golden age in human history that we needed to be there, all of us wanted to be there for our kids and our grandkids and the kids and the grandkids of the people of the world as it was there for us. That's why we're here. That's why we have no choice to do anything other than to win. Because and why we need to make June count and why we've got to leave it all on the playing field because the stakes are that high. And we have power that we have to recognize together, working together. We continue to change history, and we're going to do it again in November. Thank you all so much. Keep fighting. I'm proud to be in this fight every day with all of you. Take care.